Want to have fun? Love dungeon crawlers? Well, I got a great one for you. This is the brand new 12 Realms Dungeonland from Mage Company. Hey, this is the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new one from Mage Company. Now, you may know Mage Company from some of their other titles that have come out so far, the 12 Realms games. I do have quite a few of the game here, as well as quite a few of the expansions I've picked up through some of their other Kickstarters. I really do like this system that they have from a 12 Realms perspective. Well, what have they done? They have taken the 12 Realms universe and they have put that into a dungeon crawler. Now, the Kickstarter has officially started today, the day that we're filming this, which is on May the 15th, 2017. And that will be running. It is up right now. You can go to the description below, and I will have a link directly to that Kickstarter so you can go check it out. What we have here is Dungeonlands, and this is a dungeon crawler based on the 12 Realms characters and theme. So let's get these out of the way, and we will take a look at what Dungeonland has to offer for us. So, one thing that I want to make sure is clear for everyone is this is a alpha of alpha kits, okay? This is a prototype. This is a print and play, all right? You can get everything that you see right here on this table by going to their website. Just go right to the Kickstarter. I believe they have it on the Kickstarter site as well. You can go right there and you can download the print and play version of this game, and that's what this is. Now, obviously, this was sent to me, so they gave these little dice to me for the prototype and various little tokens and whatnot. So you won't get those; you have to use your own for that. But it's only you only need to use a 6-sided die, so a D6, and most people have that, so that's not that big of a deal. It's pretty easy. Everything else you see here will come with the print and play. Now, I did use these little stands. They're from another game, but I wanted to use them just for my own play as I kind of went through the dungeon for the characters, and we'll explain kind of how that works here in a little bit. What I want to do first is just kind of go through some of the stuff that you're going to see in this game, and then what we'll do is we'll talk about some of the gameplay mechanics versus doing a lot of actual gameplay. And that's only because we've just got the print and play here. But I will show you kind of how the game works and what type of mechanics are in the game and why I actually like this particular dungeon crawler so much, because it's a really good one. If we look up here, you're going to see some various things in the game that you would historically see in a dungeon crawler like this. We've got the consumable items. Let's take a look at some of these here. Item detect scroll. So that's kind of a one-time type of use, and we'll read it here. After the hero performs a loot, he may discard the key to re-roll the loot die. So within this game, as you play the game, if there are no monsters within a tile, and we'll talk a little bit more how these tiles work, but if there are no monsters within a tile, you can use one of your actions and do a loot. So you'll grab a 6-sided die and you'll roll that die. And one mechanic that's really cool about this game is, depending on which number you roll on the die, is what you find for the loot. So you can find gold, or you can find, items, various different things, which is pretty cool. I like that it isn't just this is a gold chest or this is an item chest, and you roll and it's you either open it or you don't, right? You got to pick the lock, or this game doesn't work that way. You would go for your loot action. You could only do that once per tile. You'd roll the die, and then it'd be kind of a surprise every time of what you're actually going to get on that tile, and you only have one chance to do that. So I really like that mechanic. That's pretty cool. And then you can get items like this, where let's say if the die roll doesn't go in your favor, you can throw that down and get a reroll. Let's look at a couple other here. We got the dash potion. Hero may discard this potion anytime during the activation to immediately perform a free move. There's a heal potion, an energy potion, a stun potion. When performing an attack, a hero may discard this card to add the stun special ability to the attack. So these are just a few of the consumables that have been included in the print and play. So you can get kind of a flavor for the types of items that you're going to get that would be in that category. Now, there will be more as the game is built out and it goes through your Kickstarter, but those are the ones that are here. There's also going to be spells. Now, there was one included, the Fireball spell. There's quite a few spells that are included in this game you'll be able to use. Those are magic attacks. As you build out your characters, we'll talk more about how these characters build out. That's another great mechanic that I love in this game, is it does have skill trees, which is very cool and adds a high level of replayability for these characters as you build out for just scenarios as well as playing campaigns. And then what we have here is every character will start with some starting weapons. So there is a deck of starting items, and things like Little Dagger, the Woodcutter's Axe, Red Hooded Cloak, Apple Bow, the Leather Armor, just various types of Magic Sphere, various types of starting items that your characters will get in the game. Now, when we think about the characters, one thing that's cool about the 12 Realms universe and Dungeonlands as well is that they use these fantasy-based characters. So if we look here, we got the Grumpy Dwarf, we have Wizard of Oz Mage, we have the Red Riding Hood character, and then we have the epic but classic Snow White, which is one of my favorite characters from the 12 Realms games, as well as I believe will be within Dungeonland. That's what we got for some starting items, and then they also included for the print and play some level 1 items, and all of the level 1 items are included, I believe, that they have in the game in the print and play, and there's quite a few you can see. Here, again, it's just print and play, so they just got some light artwork that are on the front of these cards. It is nice artwork even for a print and play. So we got, I'll take a look at a couple of these. We've got a sling, there's a short bow, a throwing dagger, a bandit armor, a shield. It's called the Knight's Shield, Amulet of Luck. I love these amulets and rings. That's another cool thing in this game. Not only do you have your classic armor that you would wear, weapons you would gain throughout gameplay, you've also got what's called trinkets, which are going to be the category of things like amulets and rings, things of that nature, necklaces, that you'll be able to pick up and acquire throughout the game and wear as well. So that's a fun little aspect that gets to add to the game. So if we look here, there's some various, tokens and things. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you've got, your health, you've got your ability and kind of action, as well as you've got gold tokens that are included in the print and play. Right up here, you've got the enemies that you're going to fight. And it's an interesting mechanic how the enemies work as well when they go on and get populated into a tile. There is an initiative process that you'll go through. I'll explain that here in a minute. But there is a card for each one of the enemies. And there's a few different enemies that are included. You've got the Chicken Warrior. That's probably my favorite, the Chicken Warrior. And then you got the Werewolf. There's a Rat Soldier. What else do we have here? The Bandit. I believe that's all of them. That is all of them. So you can see what kind of monsters they have. They're very light. Think about the theme. This is very kid-friendly because the dungeon crawler is very light. A lot of the characters come from classics, children's types, books, movies. Even the monsters are very, very light-hearted type monsters that you're going to duel within this dungeon. I mean, the Chicken Warrior. If you're definitely thinking about picking this up for the family, it does have that lighthearted theme, great artwork, and I can't wait to see what happens when we go through the Kickstarter. So the next thing we have here in the print and play are the events. So when you play this game, you're going to essentially go through 3 phases. One, you're going to start off with a refresh phase. So right off the beginning, you're going to basically refresh everything that would be needed to be refreshed in the game. As you play out a round, you're then going to go into a event phase. So one of the players is going to take this deck here, and they're going to flip a card and immediately read it and execute that event. And then after that, the players are going to go through per initiative, and we'll explain that here in a second how that works, and play out the round. And there's lots of different actions they can take. Some of your basic actions like moving, attacking. You can loot, again, if there's no monsters on a tile. You loot once per tile. You can, trade cards. There's various different actions you can take as you're playing. You can also rest, right? So taking no actions, resting, being able to gain back all of your kind of energy type points. You can gain those back if you rest. So I'll take a look at these events here because I really like games that include this mechanic of the event. And what I like about this one is that event will play out every single round. It isn't like There are something that will only trigger the event. It will play out every single round. So let's take a look at one here called the Dark Chieftain. Draw and place on the map a minion of one level higher than the adventure following the normal rules. If there are no minions of higher level, draw and place an elite minion of the same level as the adventure instead. So I'm glad that I drew that one and read that. Happened to be conveniently on top of the deck. In this game, you do have different levels of monsters. So you kind of have your basic monsters. You also have your elite minions. I'm going to read a couple more. One of these is called Ambush. Another one's called Hidden Trap. So on Ambush, spawn in the previous room monsters equal to the number of heroes -1. So ambushes are interesting. Whenever those happen, you spawn in the prior room that the heroes just came from. That way it kind of truly is an ambush. I mean, you're on a tile, you've got monsters on that tile. That tile is populated per some cards here. We'll go over that in a second. And then these ambushed monsters will sort of come in behind you or wherever, whether tile is attached to the tile on the board. Now, that's another interesting concept before I read another one of these events that can play out. At any point in time, you can never have any more of 2 tiles on the board. So once you have 2 tiles on the board and you go through a door to explore another area, you then would take off one of those tiles and populate the new tile. And the concept there is those tiles just sort of go into a magical realm, and if you were ever to traverse back that way, you would then populate with another type of tile and repopulate that. So the dungeon is ever sort of moving and shifting 2 tiles at a time as you sort of go through your scenario. And I like that for a couple different reasons. One, every time you want to kind of move through the dungeon, say, hey, let's kind of go back, it's a new experience, it's a different experience. Second, I'm a big one with form factor as well as the amount of space that it takes to play a game. If you only have to have 2 tiles on the board at any one point in time, the only other thing that's on the table is really just your character cards, a few chits, dice, and miniatures that you will get in, obviously, the productionalized version of this. It's going to have beautiful miniatures. The miniatures are fantastic. You can see these on the Kickstarter page. They look great. There's all kinds of different, little furniture pieces and doors and various things that they're including as well. It looks really awesome. Go check that out. I am very excited about that. I love whenever they do these dungeon crawlers and they include, little various pieces of furniture and different things that you can interact with on the game board. But that's how these tiles will work, and that's how an ambush will work. The ambush will always come in to the room that you just came from. And this last one that I'll read here is called the Hidden Trap. The hero who was last in initiative of the previous turn rolls 3 attack dice. So you can just see that some of these events can dramatically help you, and some of these events can hurt you. Some of these events can just make your life a little bit more tough as you're going through this dungeon. So there is an event deck that's going to happen on every round. So let's take a quick look at our hero cards here, and I'll just show you this. I know it's a little difficult to see. We will have some pictures here at the end so you can see everything up close. But this one is Snow White, and I do like the way that they've designed the hero card here. So you'll notice that they've got some slots here in the bottom for the various cards, as well as here at the top, so you can kind of place those cards. So here at the bottom, they've got equipment card, spell cards, weapon card, and weapon card. Each one of the characters do have that area to be able to kind of slot in your cards kind of, behind this card as you're playing. You can keep those all nice and organized. I like that. It also lists out the skill tree that Snow White will be able to take advantage of. So another mechanic of this game that I really like is as you play the game, and not only are you building out the character with finding items and looting and getting, different types of things as you're playing, you're also getting to have the ability to take advantage of specific skill trees for certain characters, and not all of them are the same. So every character can use a different skill tree, and within each one of those skill trees, there's multiple options to build out and customize your character. So one thing that I think about when I think about this skill tree use and how they've implemented it in this game is very much like, various computer games and RPGs that you would play. That's what it feels like when you're playing this game, is you're truly building this character out, customizing the character, and giving them different abilities and skills, but within specific skill trees. And I like that they limited that for the characters. They did make the characters be able to take different use of different skill trees. That way it doesn't become so vanilla, where it doesn't really matter which character you pick. You can basically have the same skills and the same approach. All you have is a different miniature and a different artwork. That's not the case here. If you go with Grumpy Dwarf, if you go with the Wizard of Oz here, and you go with Snow White, it's going to be completely different because they each take use of different types of skill trees. I absolutely love that mechanic. That's going to play out really, really well in the productionalized version. I can't wait to see how that plays out from a campaign perspective, because this game not only comes with the fact of running through multiple scenarios, you also get the campaign experience. So you can go through a full-blown campaign over multiple scenarios and really flesh out each one of these characters however you want to specifically customize that character. And then play another campaign with the exact same character, but completely change the way that you flesh out and customize the skill tree. I absolutely love that in this game, and it's executed so well. Even in this print and play version, that component of this game is worth it alone, just to be able to customize those characters. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I love dungeon crawlers in games where they add that level of customization to the character. That, in my opinion, is what makes a good dungeon crawler. It's not about just move my character on a tile, from tile to tile, roll, defend, attack, roll, defend. This gives you so much more with all these mechanics that they've added in with the events and with the skill trees and the customization of the characters.
All right, I really like that.
I also love the fact that they've got, and we'll move right into this now, the ability to set initiative when you populate these tiles. There's actually two things with populating and interacting with tiles. When you pull a tile in, there's these little exploration cards, and they are also in the print and play here. You're going to find the one that corresponds to the tile that you're putting down. So let's just say, for instance, this one is here. What you're going to do is you're going to look at that card, and that's going to tell you exactly where monsters and heroes are going to go, depending on how many you have in play. So there's a little H1, H2, H3, H4. So if you had 2 players, you'd put it in the H1 and H2 spot. Those were where your heroes would go. And you would populate the monsters, a little M2, M3, and M4. So if there's just 2 players, you would just put a monster in M2, M2, and M2, wherever the M2 was right on that card that corresponds to this tile. You would populate the M3 and M4 if you had 3 and 4 players. So that way the game can kind of scale for how many players you play with. The more players, the more monsters you're going to have to interact with and take out. It also will indicate to you where you would place various items within that room. So there might be a barrel, there might be, and there's a little card here they included the print and play that's got a few little things, some treasure chests, there's some bookcases and some tables, various different things that you'd cut out and you'd be able to put right there on the tile. And those would actually affect line of sight as well. That's how this game works. If there is something in the room, it does affect line of sight, so you can use that to kind of maneuver around for your benefit as well, things that are in the actual tile, which I really like that they not only just put the pieces of furniture in there for flair, they're actually usable to the game. I don't know. I call that out because I've seen other dungeon crawlers where they do put things in them, but then they literally have no use. Like, you may have to move around them, like you can't move through them, but they don't affect line of sight at all. I do like how these things do affect line of sight within this game, as well as you need to maneuver around them. So that's how you would populate a tile, by use of these exploration cards. Then what's going to happen round to round is something called initiatives. For this example, I'll go ahead and take these out because these would be, cards in the productionalized game as well. And this would be a way that you would do your initiative. So what's going to happen is you're going to shuffle these up. So I'll set these down here, and I'll grab a few of these monsters, and I'll shuffle these up as well. We'll put these in here. And then what's going to happen after you shuffle these, and let's just say that's how many we ended up using. We'd kind of shuffle these all together, and one of the players will take this deck of monsters as well as characters, and then they will start to kind of lay them out from top to bottom. So we have our werewolf came out first. Here's a little minion, and then here's a soldier rat. Here's another one here, and then here's finally a character. And this is just how the draw is coming out now. But let's say that we didn't have this many. Okay, I'm just drawing almost nothing but monsters. But let's say we didn't have that many monsters on. You'd have a character that might have come out, and you might have a character down here again that have come out. So that's how you would initialize the initiative for that turn. So what you would do is you would start at the top and you would go down. And I like that mechanic as well, because every single time you go in and you're going to sort of execute out a round, it isn't like that vanilla approach of all the characters are going to go and then all the monsters are going to go. Or character monster. I really like dungeon crawlers that execute well on that initiative. And I think that is really, in my opinion, quite frankly, a standard rule in today's dungeon crawlers. You really have to go with that initiative because it makes it a little bit more random and it makes it feel a little more real as you're playing out that dungeon crawler. So in this example, this like werewolf monster would get to go first. It would get to take its action, which would be move, and then attack if it was in range. If it wasn't in range, it would be able to move and then move again. That's how the rule works for monsters. And then for second initiative, you'd have Red Riding Hood. So Red Riding Hood would get to take her turn and activate. Then it would become this little rat soldier. Then it would be this like headless horseman guy, and then it would be grumpy dwarf, and that's how you would go right down the turn order. And then for the next round you would shuffle these all up, and then you would put them out again, and then it would be a new initiative for the next round. So let's wrap up this preview with a quick explanation of how combat works, because combat is done very simply in this game. Essentially, you will roll a die, and that die will indicate if you are able to attack or not. So every one of the sides of the six-sided die we have here will correspond to a different type of attack. Whether it's a 1, which is just a straight miss, you got melee attacks, you've got ranged attacks, magical attacks, and those are all indicated by a different number. So you would roll that, and that was a 1, so that would be a miss. That was an epic fail. I tell you, if you want to roll 1s almost every single time in a game with a d6, put it in my hand. It is ridiculous. My friends know me by this. It's almost comical. I literally have rolled 5 individual 1s in a row with a d6. It's almost ridiculous. So, okay, then I roll a crit. All right, that's make me look stupid. You're gonna roll that die and you're going to get the type of attack that you would hit. Now, if you're not able to hit it all initially, let's say you only have a ranged weapon and it rolls a 2 or a 4, which is melee attack, you wouldn't be able to get a hit. Let's just say hypothetically. You would just move on. Combat would be over. You have to initially be able to make the hit. Then what happens is you determine your attack power, and that's going to be made up of various, cards that you have, items that you have that are going to make up that attack power. You basically add that up. So, for instance, if I had this little dagger here, it has an attack power of 1, and then it indicates the melee range that I could kind of hit in, and then it indicates that I would need one hand to hold that. So that my attack power would essentially be 1, and maybe I could modify that by some other items that I might have. The defender then would roll a die, and that die would indicate if they were able to basically just miss, or they would have a shield and be able to defend. And then they would indicate, they would count up how much defense they had, and they would compare that. The difference of that would be how much damage that you would be doing in the game. And what's interesting about this attack and defense mechanism, and it really is that easy when it comes to attack and defense, is I like that it isn't just a single roll of I got a 2, I got a 1. All right, 2 beats 1. It's a, can I hit with the type of weapon that I have, or the type of attack I want to make, yes or no. And then can I defend or miss? Then you determine based on the defense value on the enemy card and the attack values that you have to determine what the outcome is. So I like that. It's almost kind of a 2-phase attack and defend that you roll the die to see what your initial reaction is, and then based on that you compare your totals and values. It's simple, but it takes it to kind of one step more than what you normally would do of just a simple roll versus roll. And I really like that mechanic. I do want to talk a little bit about the death of characters, because it's more of a knockout than it is a death, and that's going to really happen based on our combat that we're going to have as we play out the game. Whenever a character gets taken out, I like to call it knocked out, you would essentially take a little character token, and they've included these little cards here. I believe that this is what this is for. I've used just kind of the colors and tokens to indicate this, but you can cut these out if you want to. You take this little character token and you would lay that on the tile of where your character was kind of knocked out. And you would have to stay that way until either one, all the monsters within that tile are gone, or two, another hero would come over to you and heal you with either like a healing potion or some type of ability. They'd have to heal you, and it doesn't matter how much that healing does, you always just come back up with just 1 health. So you're going to want to figure out a way to heal. You're going to want to rest. You're going to want to kind of keep away from the monsters, because you're just going to, you might just die again with only that 1 health point. Or, all the monsters in the room have been taken out and there is no more threat within that area, and then you just sort of get up, right? You get up because there's no more threat. The rest of the heroes have taken care of the problem. So there's 2 ways to do that. Most of the time, if there's quite a few monsters that are left, a hero is going to get over to you and try to heal you to bring you back in the game, right? That way there's more heroes attacking those monsters, defending against those monsters, versus just, 1 if you're playing a 2-player game. So most of the time you're probably going to be seeing other characters getting over to you, strategizing amongst yourselves, trying to figure out, how do we get this player up, versus leaving them there until we have to take out all the rest of the monsters and then they come up. Because this game is somewhat of a cooperative game, the way I view it. I mean, it is a 2 to 4 player game. It's not indicated as a 1 to 4 player game, but you could essentially by yourself just play multiple characters, at the end determining which one is kind of the ultimate winner based on what you've acquired and various other things, as the rule set gets built out. But you could potentially cooperatively play multiple characters, because as you play with your characters, you will be, working with one another. All of your cards are kind of visible. You're sort of helping one another go through the dungeon and cooperatively taking out, healing one another when you fall in battle. So it is that type of cooperative dungeon crawler. I do believe that is about everything that I want to hit for this print and play version of Dungeonland. Again, click the link in the description below the video and it will link you right to the Kickstarter. The Mage Company, once again, excellent design on an excellent game. I cannot wait until this gets to the Kickstarter, gets to production. I think this is going to be a really, really good dungeon crawler in the dungeon crawling genre. And I just love the mechanics that have been implemented here. It's going to be a great game. So everybody, get out there, back this game. You'll be sorry if you didn't. Trust me, when you hit that Kickstarter page and you see those miniatures, you see what you're going to get, I think you're going to be impressed. It's going to be a good one. So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team, ring the bell. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.